everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Zoo School. My name's Jen, and if you've been following us for a while, if you're a friend of the zoo, you know that our mission is to conserve wildlife and wild places, to save wildlife and wild places. And that is not just animals, it's animals, plants, and people. And when you come to the zoo, you are looking at animals and it's a whole experience. There are also amazingly beautiful plants all around you. And that's no accident. There are a group of people that work on that all year round. Today, you're going to meet one of them. That's David. And David is our manager of buildings and grounds. And his job is to care for the plants and help them grow. He's going to tell you a little bit about it and how he and his team work together to keep Roger Williams Park Zoo looking beautiful. So enjoy your time with him, and I'll see you in a minute.
My name is David Alvo, and I'm the manager of horticulture at Roger Williams Park Zoo. I actually got into this quite accidentally. I've always had a lifelong interest in plants because growing up I always raised butterflies and moths. And doing that, I had to know what specific plants I could use for the butterflies and moths because, believe it or not, most caterpillars are very picky about what they would eat. So I started volunteering at the zoo, and this job opened up, and I became a horticulture person, and then eventually the management position opened up, and I kind of fell right into it. So one of the things I wanted to bring to this position was adding more pollinator gardens to the zoo, because I'm a firm believer in the importance of pollinators. If we didn't have pollinators, we actually wouldn't have food. So one of the things we do during the winter, because believe it or not, zoo horticulture is a year-round job, is we grow pollinator flowers for the next season. So down here we have things like milkweed, which are perfect for monarch butterflies. These are actually cucumber plants, but they're great to get pollinators in here because they love the pollinator flowers. And as an added bonus, we'll get cucumbers later in the season. And then down here we have started some Echinacea, which is also known as purple cone flower, which is one of the best pollinator flowers that there are, and it is native. And over here we have different things like Echinacea, we have snow and summer plants, and over here is something called Verbena. All these plants are very beneficial to pollinators. Not only do they attract them so that bees and butterflies will go to pollinate the flowers, they're great nectar sources, but some of these are also great for caterpillars as well, like the monarch butterfly will go not only to the milkweed over here for the flowers, but they'll lay their eggs for the caterpillars to feed on later in the season. So one of the things we like to do is take cuttings wherever possible using one of the best tools that we have, which are pruners. And what you do is you cut right below a set of leaves, just like this, and then peel the leaves off. Because what's going to happen is when you stick this in dirt, all the new roots are going to come out of these little areas where the leaves used to be. So then what we do is we just put that end right into a small pot of dirt. And we have to keep the dirt moist at all times, and within a week or so it'll start sending out new roots, and eventually we'll get a whole new plant out of it. So one of the things we like to try to do at the end of a season is bring all of the plants back in that were out on grounds that wouldn't survive our cold winters. By bringing them in, we can nurture them during the winter, fertilize them really well to bring them back for the following season, but we can also take cuttings from some of these plants to create new plants to add even more to our collection, either the following season or the season after that, depending on how quickly they grow. So what we have going on here is a regular problem in the greenhouse, and that's aphids. So aphids love to go on our milkweed plants. Aphids are called sap suckers, and they have these mouth parts that will actually suck the sap out of the plant, eventually killing it or doing some damage. So because we want to use these milkweeds to help the monarchs, we have to figure out a way to get rid of these aphids without affecting the plant so that the monarchs can lay their eggs and their caterpillars won't be affected. One of the things we do to help combat the aphids is we come up with our own pesticide that we learned about from reading online. For every gallon of water, we add 2.5 tablespoons of Dawn liquid and 2.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil. This stuff is really good for the environment. It doesn't do any kind of harm, and it actually makes a really good insect killer. So what we do is we'll actually spray it onto the aphids that are on the milkweed. It will kill them, and then once they're dead, we just spray it all off with water. It washes everything away, and then the plant will be safe for monarchs later in the season. As an extra tip, we have our own formula for poison ivy killer. If you're not a fan of poison ivy, if you take a gallon of vinegar and mix it with a cup of salt and then a tablespoon of Dawn liquid and mix it all up and spray it onto a poison ivy plant, it will kill it within a few hours. The Dawn liquid actually helps it stick to the plant so it doesn't wash off. One of my favorite parts about this job is seeing everything when it's in full bloom. We spend all this time getting plants ready and planted. So at mid-season, when everything is full bloom and you have all the butterflies and bees coming in, you know you did your job right. When you have guests constantly complimenting you on the flowers and plants, it's a great feeling. It's very rewarding. So how do you get into a position like this? Going to college is important, but I honestly don't think it's necessary. For me, it was all about life experience. I've been doing plants ever since I was probably 8 or 9 years old and learned a lot on my own. I did a lot of reading. I have a lot of books in my collection that I constantly refer to. And also now you have the internet. So if you can go to college and get a degree in this, that's great, but it's really not necessary. The more you do hands-on, the better off you're going to be. For your Zoo School challenge this week, I'm going to show you how to do cuttings of native plants like I showed you earlier with the lantana. Right here I have these willow trees. These are actually cuttings that we took earlier. And again, do the same thing. Prune it right below a leaf. Take off the bottom leaf, just like that, exposing the flesh underneath. And then you just put it into some moist soil. The key to this is keeping the soil moist. And before long, you'll actually have a whole new plant. Thanks for coming by and spending some time with me in the horticulture greenhouse. It's an area that most people don't get to see, so I was happy to be able to share it with you.
How awesome was that? David really loves taking care of plants here at the zoo, and he and his team do a fantastic job. And I'm really excited about that Zoo School challenge, because when you make plants grow, you are actually providing a home and sometimes even food for animals in your own backyard. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.